Hey, welcome to my channel guys, and in this video we are going to look at two features of the Laravel package Saloon. The first one is query parameters and the second one is HTTP client config. Before I start, just wanted to let you know that for this purpose I am running two Laravel applications. One is the actual application Saloon where I am writing my code, and because it requires an API to connect to, I am running a second Laravel application which is a test application running on my machine. So one is on localhost 8000 and the second one is on localhost 9000. In the previous videos we have already seen how we can send query parameters, but just so that everyone is aware of it and as per the flow, I will just quickly walk you through how things are done. So in any connector or request, we have the ability to pass default query parameters, and as the documentation says, this is quite easy. I just need to add this method to a request class or a connector. So if I put that inside the connector and say my param is 50, then what will happen is if I make an API call in that request parameter, I should get that. So to validate that, what I will do is I'll go into my test application, and I am already logging headers because previously we were looking at the headers, but right now what I will do is log this input parameter, and that should show me the result ideally. So let's see. I come over here, I refresh, and then I see the value printed over here. Why? Because the default query parameter from the connector got executed. But then, as the documentation says, we can also have it inside the request, which basically means over here, so I have constructor, the endpoint, headers, and if I add it over here, and this time if it is 100, if I refresh this page and go to my test applications log file, I can see this being 100 because now I am seeing the overridden value because the connector was sending my param as 50, but then the request is the next part and it overridden the parameter with the value of 100. Okay, so this is how you can use this particular thing inside your application. Okay, now again, this you have seen, I can add a constructor and get these two values, and then we can use that inside the default query parameter. Usage, you can see I don't think we need to go deep into it. I have already done it in my previous video, and there are quite a few methods over here which you can use. For example, set, merge, remove, stuff like that, right? So yeah, with this, ideally you should be able to send any kind of query parameter request required to the endpoint. Now the other thing which is very important is, let's say you want to make certain kinds of configurations in the Guzzle instance. One of the most common one is, like you're making HTTP calls from your application to a third-party application. And just imagine what happens if the third-party application is slow, right? Typically, you should have a timeout where you try for some time and then you say, okay, if it is not working, I'll just close the connection, right? And this is what is explained over here. So this is a configuration which we can send to Guzzle where we define the timeout. So let's just say, again, this is something which is available both at the connector level and on the request level. So to explain this better, what I will do is come over here. Okay, so the connector has a default config. So I'll just add the timeout. I'll just copy this piece, add it over here. Now this has a timeout of 30 seconds, but ideally I'll reduce it to 3 seconds. And right now my request should work. There's no problem at all. Why? Because the request is being responded immediately. But if for some reason there is a delay of 5 seconds, I save, come over here and I refresh, and I get a timeout. I get a timeout after 3 seconds because the endpoint didn't respond. Correct? So this is one way, but then let's just say in one particular request I want the value to change. So I come over here. This is header endpoints, right? So I can still add the config. This time this is just 1 second, and if I hit refresh now, can you see it timed out after exactly 1 second, although the URL is still the same, but I am able to override at a request level as well. And these two things are very important to understand. And the connector level configuration and the request level configuration, you may have certain requests which will take some time, so you can override it, saying that okay, for this particular response or this particular request, I'm expecting the response to be a little delayed, so you override it, but otherwise you have a very small timeout number. So yeah, that's about it, guys. That's what I wanted to cover in this video about query parameters and HTTP configuration, which is required, rather which we can do to our Guzzle instance. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, do click on the thumbs up icon and don't forget to subscribe to my channel.